everyone, and welcome to today's episode on the Kristen Weardon Show. I am so excited that you could be with us today because my guest has graced the runways of Milan and now is here in our studio in Naples, Florida, and I cannot wait until you get to hear her journey and where she's been and where she's at now. So today we have Hanya Kizemchuk. Thank you so much. I nailed it. I nailed the name. I get some great guests with some names that don't roll off the tongue. So tell me, what is the background of the name? Where does it?
It's Ukrainian.
Okay. So is your family from there originally, or?
Yeah, my parents were both born in the Ukraine, and they came to Canada after World War II. And I was born and raised in Toronto.
Okay, I saw on your bio that's where you hail from, basically.
Correct.
Okay. So you started in the vibrant city of Toronto, but boy, has it grown now.
It's really changed
from when you lived there full time.
Yeah, it's growing at a rate that is quite unbelievable. So when they start comparing it to New York, then you know how big that city is growing.
Wow. I've only visited once, and when I went, I had the best time.
How long ago?
Probably, I'd say 2000 and no, I'm sorry. 19. 18,
oh,
19.
So not so long ago.
18, 19. I took my daughter.
Nice.
And we had such a great time. She wanted to go someplace that she needed a passport. And I was like, okay, I'm working. How much time can I take for a passport trip? So I was like, well, I need a passport to go to Canada. And so we spent 5 days. And we just went around and we just saw everything. It was
great.
and the food.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
We had a great time. So I love the city you hail from.
Thank you.
So you went from Toronto and then you transitioned into modeling.
I did.
And ended up in Milan.
I did.
I am dying to know this story. So how does that happen? And how did that happen to you?
So you have to think back over 40 years ago at a time where there was no computer or Google or cell phone. There was none of that. It was the printed word was everything, which meant magazines. And I loved fashion magazines, and I would just religiously, every time it would come out every month, I would be looking and looking. And so I found the name of the top agency in Milan, and I tore that out and said, someday I'm going there. So my father made me finish my university, which I did, and I said, bye-bye. I got on a one-way ticket flight and flew to Milan with that little piece of paper, my luggage in tow, and from the airport, I went straight to the agency. Wow. With no other plan. That was my plan. And I'm actually in the process of writing an autobiography right now. So it's very interesting to recall these stories as we are doing right now, because it takes me right back over 40 years ago, being this very innocent young lady sitting there in the receptionist saying, you did what? You're from where? And I sat there and I heard her go to the back to all of the booking agents, and all I heard back there was what I thought they were saying was Toronto, Toronto, Toronto. They were not saying Toronto, they were saying pronto, like hello in Italian. But I'm out in the front saying, oh, they must be talking about me. Everybody's talking about me. This is going to be great. The reality was very different. So I very quickly was assimilated into the industry. And they cut all my hair off. They gave me a very boyish cut. And, I was thrust into a new country, a new language, a new business. And I loved it. I flourished.
So you got thrust into this new world. How difficult was it, or challenging, or not at all, to end up in this European Italian culture from being in Toronto? Was it a culture shock or not so much?
I didn't really look at it like that, because I went in there with sort of rose-colored glasses. Okay. Everything to me was this amazing journey, and I was beyond excited every day, waking up going, wow, look at where I am, look at what I'm doing. So challenging, I didn't think so. I just rolled with what was happening every day. Right. They said, go there, go to that studio, get your hair cut, show up to that job. go, we're shooting a film today, you're going to do a little bit part in Italian cinema. Wherever they sent me, I went. So I didn't look at it as this kind of frightening thing. I just went, yes, I'm here.
The adventure of a lifetime.
Yeah,
truly. That's amazing, because sometimes people would get shell-shocked about it, but you were just so enthusiastic about the whole process.
Truly. And the reality is that when I reflect now, I understand that has carried me through my entire life. It's that kind of warrior spirit, like, it doesn't matter, I'm going to go try it. And of course, sometimes I fail, more than sometimes, but it doesn't really matter to me. I go for it, I try it, I enjoy it, and sort of fearlessly, I would say.
I can see that in your spirit from the first time I met you to when you walked in the door today to just you sitting here. You have a very vibrant, outgoing, and okay, let's just go do it.
Yeah, totally. Let's try. Let's see what happens.
Sometimes it works out great, and sometimes, you just roll with it.
100%.
I think more people need to, I'm not trying to tell people what to do, but I think they
No.
should maybe have a little bit more of a fearless spirit.
I think so.
Than a fearful spirit. I don't know if that's a post-COVID pandemic thing, that people are still afraid, or the world around us looks scarier than I think it really is.
True.
But I wish people had more of that.
I think that's really true. I think that post-COVID people are, they're a little more afraid and depressed, and they don't, their futures feel questionable. So I think there's a difference today. But I will say to you this, that I don't look at it like that. I say, today is a new day. If something happened terrible yesterday, that was yesterday. We're at it fresh today. Give it your best and go for it. And that's pretty much how I lead my life. I feel that that's the growth part. If you're not trying new stuff every day, then you're failing yourself, your potential. You need to just grow, and with growth comes some pain, as we know.
Yes.
And pain can be in the terms of failure. So I don't look at it as failure, I look at it as a growth spurt. I'm just growing.
More positiveness. I think you have such a positive attitude. I'm so glad you're with us today.
Thank you.
I love this.
Thank you for having me.
So you've worked with some amazing designers over the years.
I
Go
have.
ahead and name drop. I can't wait.
I think probably the person who was most impactful to me was Karl Lagerfeld. Somebody that you would know. There were others along the way that are no longer alive, like a Claude Montana. This generation wouldn't know who that was. But of course, Karl Lagerfeld was somebody that I had the pleasure of working for in Germany, because that's where he started. He became a big hotshot in Germany before he went and became the House of Chanel. And what I found from him that I took with me was his absolute positiveness, and he was so confident. When he walked into a room, he was there. He was confident. It doesn't really matter what was going on. He's there, and he's confident. And I took that with me because I was just sort of a young kid at that time, happy to be working with this guy who was a superstar in Germany. Never mind House of Chanel, but in Germany. And I went, ooh. And watching him, I said, that guy knows what he's doing. I'm going to be like that when I grow up.
Well, I think you've done well with that, because I know the first time I saw you walk into a room, there was an event. No, actually, it was somebody's seasonal opening party down off 3rd.
Right.
And it's the first time I saw you, and I go, well, who is this, and how do I not know her? This gorgeous woman just comes right across and just floats right through the room, and I said, woo, okay. That's who I need to meet.
Thank you.
And so, you have a presence when you walk in the room.
Thank you.
But I also find in business, too, when people come in confidently,
Yes.
other people notice, and they're more able to look at them and say, I want to have a conversation with them, like
Correct.
I did.
Yes.
Or if they work for you, they are more likely to say, okay, I trust them when they have confidence. It sounds like
Yes.
you had a lot of trust in his work, in Carl's work,
Oh, of
and the
course.
things that he did by just his confidence.
Correct. I mean, he knew what he was doing. Whether he did or didn't, it didn't really matter. Right. Nobody would know that. His
Yeah.
confidence level was above the charts. And that's what I took away with me. I said, that is one cool guy. And then, of course, then you saw him just evolve and didn't surprise me.
Yeah.
The sky was the limit for him.
And that's true. That's so true. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember I was probably, so I had the little modeling bug, but I never got tall. And my family told me, well, when you graduate high school, because I'm from Connecticut, we could take the train to Manhattan. I mean, it just was,
Oh, yes,
it was
that's
only
true.
a 40-minute train ride. And so I did that jaunt for a little while. And I got some catalog stuff or,
Yes.
because when you're short, it doesn't
Well, you're
matter.
a little shorter, it's
It
fine.
it works out perfectly.
Yes.
Caldors back in the day. I know I'm dating myself, everyone. But we don't have to talk about that, but we will talk about it in a minute. But, it was fun. It was great. I mean, the most exciting thing I ever did was a rooftop photo shoot.
Yes.
And most of the pictures were done in black and white in Manhattan.
Oh, yes.
I thought I had arrived. And I think I was, graduated high school early when I was 16, but I think I was maybe 18. And, I was the best time of my life.
Yeah, true.
So, but when you're younger, I think it's good to have that fearless try stuff. Because we
Yes.
get a little jaded when we get a little older.
Well, we have experienced some things that were probably not favorable. And what happens with that is that often you're going to hold back. And I'm not going to say that I'm always fearless. No, of course not. I have those times in my life where I pull back and then I reevaluate and then I just sprint forward after I've had a time to think it through a little bit. I think COVID was very much like that, where I was on my own. I'm still on my own, but at that time, really on my own, and you get into your head, of course, right? Ontario was shut for 2 years. There were two things open: was the alcohol store, which is the LCBO, we call it, and food. Everything else was closed. No gyms. You could go to the park. You could go nowhere. So you get into your head, right? But when that started to open up, out I went. Here we go.
I think you just spoke how a lot of people went through the before, during, and the after.
Yes.
I think you just spoke for entire countries right now.
Correct.
In that feeling of being alone. But then as soon
Terrifying.
as they could get out, right? Terrifying.
It was terrifying for me.
And you do get in your own head. I mean, the people
You get into
suffer-
your head and you're depressed and sad and frightened because you don't know what's going to happen in this world. So not frightened for myself really, but frightened in general for the world, for my child. That's what I was feeling at
The
that
unknown.
time. The
The
unknown.
unknown. I think people are really,
100%.
really frightened with the unknown.
Yes.
For sure. So then you modeled for how long would you say? How many
So
years?
I aged out at 28.
Okay.
And by that time I had fallen in love and I wanted to stop traveling and start settling down. And so also, at that point at 28, the jobs were drying up. The younger the better. The industry is still very much the younger the better, the thinner the better. That is the reality of the industry. Some parts have changed, yes, but to the most part that is still the mantra.
So when you got married, you had a child, and were you in Toronto still at that point?
Yes.
And then you ended up in real estate or doing things
I
in
did.
real estate.
I did.
Having been in real estate for 32 years, I always find it fascinating when people have gone through that real estate part of their lives, but now in another country. So I don't know
Yes.
what that's like.
So for me, I really enjoyed taking control of my life because, of course, when you're modeling, you don't have control. You're just always living with a suitcase traveling.
Okay.
So getting into real estate gave me my control back, and I enjoyed that. And because I'm a creative soul, I enjoyed renovating. So my husband and I started to buy little cheap houses and gutting and renovating and flipping. And we got into this rhythm of doing that. And at the time, my daughter was very young. She would have been 5 years old or so. And she would come on site with us. I would put her in a playpen and give her a little bucket of water and a brush, and she would just paint the wall with water and just be busy. I didn't want her to be raised by nannies. That was a very conscious decision I made as a young mother, as a working young mother, because not only was I selling houses, I was also flipping them. So
that's a lot of that's a lot of work. And then back then, not that it was ages ago, but flipping only became a word, flipping.
correct.
Even though you were already doing it, it only became a thing maybe 10, 12 years
That's
ago.
right.
Probably mid early 2000s. But you were doing it before then.
That's
and
right.
I think people were doing it, but now you're doing it as a woman.
Yes.
In construction-wise, a male-dominated world.
Yes.
So how did you, and a gorgeous woman, which I found being pretty back in the day,
Very difficult.
was such a hindrance.
It was a hindrance, for sure. It was made it tough.
And how did you deal with that? How did you combat that?
Yeah, that's such a great question. It was difficult, for sure, because you were either ostracized, or they came on to you, or they considered, in my case, just the dumb blonde. And how I found my way was to just be very strong and non-tolerant. The appointments were short. Any come-ons were dealt with very quickly. And it was tough in the beginning until they got to know who I was.
Right.
And then they could understand that I was very serious.
I think
There was no ha-ha. There was no laughing. It's very straightforward.
But that's that confidence.
Correct. You're right.
That's that confidence. I'm seeing that confidence in those moments. For me, when I started in real estate, I was young.
Right.
And I kept I had people that wouldn't trust me with escrow checks. And I said, it doesn't go to me. It goes to my broker. Like, it's made out to me. What are you talking back when there were
Yes.
actual checks you did? And then come on, like, oh, I want to have coffee with you and talk
you want to
about
go for a drink, or no?
do you want to see a house or not?
Exactly.
Are you going to buy a house or not? But it also got me to a point where I would cut through the BS
Yes,
when I would talk
quickly.
to people very quickly.
Yes.
I'd say, what house is it you're interested in? Oh, well, I saw your sign. I said, where did you see the sign? And then you realize, no, they just saw me. They saw my picture on the sign. I stopped putting pictures on the signs.
Correct.
For the
Interesting.
longest time.
Yep.
Because I was like, call me about the house. I don't have time for that.
Yep. That's
But
true.
for me, it took a while because it really kind of hurt my self-esteem a little bit. Because I knew how to sell real estate. I grew up in the industry.
But because you were also young.
Young.
So by the time I had my daughter, I was in my late 30s.
Okay.
So by the time she was 5, I would have been 42. I was not a young chick anymore.
Yeah.
I knew exactly who I was.
Yeah, definitely different from the time I was in my
Yes,
20s
big
to the time I
difference.
was in my 40s.
Yes,
For sure.
you just haven't worked all of that out
I
yet.
had to work out the kinks.
Yeah.
And that it's okay to have a voice, and it's okay to say no,
100%.
and it's okay to say not appropriate
Yes. And no, we're not going for a drink.
Yeah.
Are we doing the deal
or not.
or not?
Right. So I think we've grown through the things that nowadays people probably don't do as much.
Yes.
They don't. They're not as inappropriate in some work environments as
Yes.
they maybe used to be.
That's correct. Things
20
have
years ago,
changed.
30 years ago.
Yeah, hopefully they have changed.
Yeah, I think
With
they
our
weed them out.
voices.
I think they weed them out pretty quickly when they haven't, in most corporate environments at least.
Right.
And then I know for me being in real estate these last few years, for example, if I get any of that, I just don't even return their call.
Correct.
I don't need them. I don't
Yes.
need to give them a reason why I don't need them. I'm not just dealing with it.
Well, there's so much of that on social media because my world now is very much social media across all the platforms. And there is a lot of that with men trying to come on. And I simply don't respond.
No answer is an answer.
Correct. I don't have to be rude. I just don't answer.
No answer is such a
And
great
if you
answer.
get and then sometimes if they get out of hand, and sometimes they really do, then I either will report or simply block. and just move on.
Block
It's
is a beautiful thing. We
it's
didn't
a
have
beautiful
that.
thing.
We didn't have that back in the face-to-face. Everything was face-to-face days. We could only hang up the phone and those kind of things. But now the block is a beautiful thing.
It is.
So understand, everybody out there, if somebody's inappropriate, you can just block. Just block. Don't even have to let it upset you anymore.
Yes, I agree.
Just be like, that's a them problem.
Yeah,
It's a them problem.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, but you went through this whole career shift into real estate and flipping houses. You have your daughter, and then you say, I kind of want to do this again.
Yes.
So tell me, what made you decide that you wanted to try this again? And what were your anticipations or I don't want to say fears because I don't really like that word, but what was kind of going, ooh, the little things, the voices that come in and say, oh, do you want to do this? What were those like?
Well, I was thinking about going back to modeling for a couple of years before I actually did.
Okay.
And I just thought, oh, it would be so great to just get on a runway and rock it again, because I love the runway. But I wouldn't do it because I'm used to being on the other side of the runway, sitting in the audience and watching. And I had built a serious business. So I thought, how is this going to look? Am I going to look silly being on the runway after I've built and established a serious brand? That went through my mind for a couple of years. And then I said, you know what, I don't care. I'm going to try this. Here we go again, right? Just go. And I remember making an appointment to get an agent, because first you need an agent. And honestly, this confident woman went around the block 2 or 3 times before she said, okay, go upstairs now, Hanya, before they close the doors. And I did. I went upstairs and they said, here's a contract. We want you. Just like that. And I said, whew, that was good. And I started to work immediately. Immediately.
That's amazing.
I
say not that's amazing in a way that's like, oh my gosh, I'm shocked. I'm not shocked. But I think it's amazing that you took that leap.
Yes.
And that they saw that in you.
Immediately they did. And, you know, the fact that they believed in me, it's not that there haven't been challenges. There are challenges at my age. There's a pushback, no doubt. So even though you see more aged models in your advertising, it's still a pushback. Yeah. They don't really know what to do with you. They don't know where to place you. Mm-hmm. Is she going to wear jeans and running shoes? Can she do that? Or is she just going to be an older model? Is she just the mother of the bride? They haven't figured that out quite. And that's the pushback. And that's part of why I do what I do. Because really, there should be no definition to that. If you think that I can pull that off, let's do that. Unless it's absolutely inappropriate, of course. But by and large, you know, open it up a bit.
And as you're saying, the mother of the bride, I'm like, you could also be the bride.
Of course.
Because how many
so
people
many of us already older.
Married later in life.
Yes,
They've
second
found
time.
love the second time.
Correct.
So you're right. They just haven't figured it out.
They haven't really figured it out.
That's a great way to put it. So when I was asked, I kind of dipped my toe back in the water.
See?
And somebody had me do a contest, and I ended up being the face of the cosmetics.
Wow.
And so I had a billboard in Manhattan and things like that. I've had a few around the country, and it was kind of cool, and I still love it. But from that, they asked me to be in a show, but it was one of those post-COVID fashion shows.
Right.
And it was, diversity was huge, right at the end of COVID there, huge.
Correct.
So it was the diversity show, Diversity Rocks.
Okay.
And I said, okay, but I knew where I would fit in that.
Right.
Because it was all shapes, all sizes, all ages, and male, female, I mean, it was everything.
Right.
So, and there was pretty much, I want to say maybe one of everything.
Yeah.
And so as I looked at the group, I go, okay, I fit there. I knew where I fit, but I liked the fact that this designer, who actually is doing another show this year, he said, I want to be a part of this. I want to make...
That's great.
I want to make something for everyone.
That's smart.
That works for everyone. And I have to tell, I had such a great time.
It is. It is a lot of fun.
And thank God it was diverse because I'm not tall.
Yeah.
So I had the age and the height.
So that's great.
As a
because that's how we are.
We're all different.
We're all different.
And so I know that's how I ended up in that group. But from that group, I did get a few other things afterwards. I mean, it's not my main focus in my life, but it's nice when you're asked.
Of course.
Do you want to do this? I'm like, oh, really? Yes, of course I do. And I did some pink apple gown sitting and things like that.
Right.
And that was great. And what I liked is, I think out of the diversity, they're trying to figure it out more. They're figuring out places for, oh, she can be the bride and the mother of the bride.
Right.
Or he can be the son and the father.
It's a very interesting time for sure, and we'll see where that all lands. Because now that we're post-COVID a few years, the industry is really churning in a way that is interesting and very far-fetched in some ways, which fashion has always been. Now it's sort of really coming back to life that way. It really slowed down, but now you have such wild design out there and designers, and it's like everybody just went, yes, I'm breathing again. I'm going to let it happen. That's what's happened. Yes.
The floodgates opened up.
They did, and that's what you see happening. And so you have a lot of spirited shows and fashion now, for sure.
I can see that. The ones I've
Wild.
seen, they've gotten extra creative.
Extra. That's true.
And even some of the designs. I mean, there's always been the designs you watch, and no one's ever going to wear that. But I get the theatrics of a show.
And it's mostly like that.
But then you see, oh, well, that's
interesting.
I think I would wear that.
You know, they take it from the show basis and then they scale it down for the public for sale, right? So the show is meant to, just make you say, wow, and it does. And then, of course, before it goes to production, it gets scaled down.
A little bit more user-friendly,
exactly.
User-friendly. We like when fashion's user-friendly, right, everyone? So earlier we talked about your confidence and the people you worked with and your boundaries and your value system, really. So when that happens sometimes. I lose my question. Where did it go? Okay, we're just going to skip that one. No, I'll figure it out. So welcome to live and all that good stuff, everyone. You were talking about that, but your core value system has been a really big part of your life.
Correct.
In your bio, I read about it. That's what the question I can't find now. So tell me, I'm going to let you tell me more about where this came from and why it's so important to you. I mean, I know we touched on it in the modeling and having those boundaries and stuff, but where did all this come from? Was it a family thing? Was it a...
I think that such a great question. I was raised in a very conservative, traditional home.
Okay.
And of course, I took some things with me and some I didn't. But internally, I became very strong about loyalty from a very young age. I was very protective of my mother. So loyalty was everything. Honesty, I learned from my mother, a woman who I don't think I ever heard her lie. And I liked that. I said, I like that. I want to be like her. So honesty, kindness, I would have that from my mother. So some of these values that we talk about, principled behavior, to me, and fairness, these are my pillars to my character. They're unshakable. You can offer me whatever you want, and I won't shake. The answer is no. If it's not within those pillars, I'm not doing it. I've learned that I can't. I have to stay true to who I am my entire life. And that has gotten a lot of strength over the years, stronger than ever. But they have always been that. And along the way, it's funny in life, you go through life and friends come and go, and husbands may come and go to people. But the reality is that for me, I knew that those were my core values, and either you fit them or you don't. And if you don't, then we're not on the same page, and often you leave these people behind. And for your own benefit and for theirs, right? Because you're not on the same page. You don't think the same way.
I really appreciate that you're saying this, because I try to, with my coaching, I try to get people to understand when you are true to who you are, you'll attract those like-kind value people.
Yes.
And if you want to be a rock star and you're off doing the rock star life, well, then you should attract rock star type people that want
Right.
to live the nomad life and go from town to town and all that kind of stuff. If you're more of a conservative person, be true to that. You can't fit everyone's mold.
You can't.
And in today with social media, we sit there, we scroll, and people go, oh, I like this, oh, I like that. Well, if it's not you,
Right.
then you're going to start attracting the wrong people and then wonder why you're hurting or people are hurting you because they don't align with you.
Right.
It's just you're putting out the wrong thing.
Social media is something that, of course, it's new to all of us. You know, we're living this. And who knows where this is going to end up in the next 10 or 20 years. But I would say that caution with your social media is important. Instead of just hanging there on TikTok, and put it down, live your life. I don't care what you had for dinner, and I don't need to see you twirling and doing 5 different outfits and slapping on 10 different layers of makeup. I don't care. You need to find something that is important in life. That's not going to be it. For all of these influencers out there, if they don't start to find some seriousness in their life, they're not going to have a life. They're not going to have something to be backed onto. You need to have a backdrop or backing, really, right?
Yeah.
Because that dries up. You're in today, you're gone tomorrow. That's social media.
Yeah.
And I find even for myself, I will be very popular for 6 months, and then it dries up again, and then maybe 6 months later, it starts to pick up again, because that's the nature. People get, they get bored. It's fickle.
Well, and you're not making it part of. It's part of who you are because it's an extension of your brand.
Yes.
But it's not who you are.
It's not my life.
It's not who you are, right?
Correct.
I know some people who run their businesses off of that, and I understand it. I understand the monetization of it. Say if you're a chef and you want people to buy your cookbook.
Yes.
I totally get that. But when it's who you are, it's your identity is on the likes and the views and the follows.
Very difficult.
You can get crushed.
Totally.
And then if you don't have people behind you
Yeah.
that are actually your friends or your family or your
Yes.
studio or your kitchen or whatever it is.
That's right.
That you also pay attention to.
That's right.
People forget that they have to pay attention to their family and their friends, not just the ones they know on social media, because otherwise they go find other friends.
Yes.
They're living their lives. And then when you say you turn around on those bad times and nobody's there, it's kind of neglected reality.
Yeah.
They're real people.
Yeah. You have to stay focused to what is real and understand that that's a bit of a show. It's just a bit of a show. And yes, you can monetize. And some people do that very well. You're right. But you really do have to know when to turn that off and to resume your live life, right?
My previous guest says be present.
Yes.
Be present in
Be
what
present
you're doing.
right now.
Be present. Be present when you're at brunch. Put the phone down. Be present when you're
Put it down.
at the family thing, whatever. Just be present.
Right.
On the being present part, as a mother, you had to balance a lot of things.
I
The
did.
work, the parenting. Tell me how you did that. How did you feel about this work-life balance and how you managed? And also how it influenced where you went in life with your career choices, because you've had a few.
Yeah. So for me, I made the decision when I was going to start a family. I took that responsibility very seriously. I was a smoker before, and I'd like to have some drinks, and I knew I wanted to get pregnant. I stopped everything a year before, cleansed my body out before I got pregnant, so that when I finally could get pregnant, or was hoping to get pregnant, that my body would be healthy. Yeah. So I took the approach of being a very serious kind of mom. And having this little child meant that somebody has to provide a roof, safety, all of that. As a business person, how far and how do you make that balance?
Right.
Because if you're ambitious, like I have been my entire life, something's got to give. right? Like that famous movie, Something's Gotta Give.
Yeah.
And I made the decision that what's got to give is the success of the business, meaning I couldn't grow it to where I really wanted to grow it. I could still grow it and be successful, but it was more important that I was really there with my daughter, raising her.
Oh, okay.
So that's how it impacted my life. And, you know, when I'm now older, I look back and I say, of course, I could have done this, I could have done that, and I know I could have. At what cost? I have a fabulous young woman, my daughter, who is so smart and educated and responsible, and she can go on in her life and have a wonderful life when I'm long gone. And that was what I wanted. That was important to me. And so if I have less money as a result, who cares? I'm still comfortable.
You could still take care of her, still have a successful business,
Yes.
but not neglect the parts of the life that were important to you.
Yes.
Which also goes to your value system that
Yes,
we
it
were
does.
talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And it shows in the outcome.
In the outcome.
Again, more being true to yourself, being true to your
Yes.
goals, being true to your value system. I find a lot of people don't have the value system. They don't even know what that is. They just kind of go through life.
Well, I think that also in this life, there's such a value attached to the big house, the fancy car, the Chanel handbag. There's a value attached to all of that. And I just wasn't going to buy into that. I'm not saying that I didn't have some parts of that, because I indeed did.
Yeah.
I just didn't take it to the 10th degree, because that 10th degree would have meant a step too far away. And I said, no, I don't need that. I need to step this way, not that way, towards my child, not away. So that was key to me.
Do you find that as we've gotten, obviously as we've gotten older, we have experience to pull from, but do you feel like you've always had this wisdom at an early age, or did it grow with you through age?
I think that with everything that happens in life, you have these little aha moments, right?
Yes.
So I was growing my business. Everything was great. My child was under 8 years of age at that time. I was invited to go to London, England to become a producer of a film. They were courting me to be in that role as a producer. So I flew to London, England. I was there for 4 or 5 days. I came home and my child was extremely sick. And when I came home and she was extremely sick, even though I left her in the care of her father, who was not, he was probably not as aware as he should have been. And when I came home to that and had to take her to the hospital right away, I had an aha moment. And I said, I'm not doing that. I can't go. This is where I have to stay. So we go through life with these aha moments that call attention to where we're going. And I found that the most difficult decisions in life were always the right one. So leaving my mother at the Alzheimer facility when she was screaming, "Don't leave me," and to this day it really disturbs my heart space. I knew that this was the right thing to do, because by that time I was a single mom raising a young child and running a business.
Right.
We make these decisions, and we need to make sure that we're listening to what's really right, no matter how hard that was,
Right.
because you need to think about what is the key, what is important to you. So as long as we stay focused, then our lives will evolve in a way that I think will give you strength and some benefits.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Totally. It absolutely makes sense. And even the leaving your mom at the Alzheimer's facility.
Heartbreaking.
It's probably one of the
Devastating.
hardest thing I've heard people say, but there becomes a safety for them.
It was.
And I know people who've chosen the home care,
Yes.
and the amount of torment when someone disappears.
I just, no.
I've actually held some people's hands when they've had to do it, and I say, listen, sometimes people need to be safe, and you can't keep them safe anymore in your home.
Correct. They have to be
And it
under
was
lock.
hard. Like, I get goosebumps. It was so heartbreaking
it's
for some of them.
horrific. It's really a tough decision, but those are the decisions that we go through in our lives.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do about it?
Just have to go with it. You
Yes,
do
that's what I said.
I think we're all doing the best we can.
Yeah.
Now,
Stay true.
Stay
Stay true to yourself.
See, it's become our theme today. Become our theme. So before we wrap up, I had one more thing that we talked about. I almost forgot. We talked about when you came in earlier and before we came on camera. And we were talking about the acceptance of age nowadays.
Yes.
And I know that I had said that, what did I say? About we don't look like our grandparents that
Right.
did at our ages.
Right.
So how do you think the general public, do you think it's because we're living longer? And so everybody kind of looks the same as they get a little bit older. We don't, look as old as we did. We don't all smoke and things like that at our older ages. And our health ailments are way later in life that people had back. I know my grandmother had her carotid artery cleaned out when she was 42 or something,
Right.
45. And I mean, we just don't hear of that. Like we hear of those things happen when you're 80 or something. Do you think it's because we're living longer and looking better and being healthier? Or do you think just the tide, like we talked about earlier, has changed in that the media is helping us with this aging diversity situation?
So I think that aging is not an easy thing, not for any of us. And I can see that process happening. I can feel that process happening. And I told you that I have this new genetic testing that I did because I'm becoming very serious about what is missing in my body. How do I supplement it properly? Because I want to feel good for as long as I can. I also think that if we compare our lives to our parents, for example, I think our lives are somewhat easier than how they had it. Our lives are so, you take your phone and you call, you have food delivered. It's not like my mother used to go shopping and going and canning her own food. And, it was it was a lot more difficult in terms of their time spent doing certain things. Today, we live a much faster life, but also we have more luxury at our fingertips, which allows us, for example, we go to the gym, we have our hair done, we as women, we do things that, for example, my mother's generation never thought of going for a facial. I don't even think she knew what that meant. So, we take care of ourselves and find importance in that in a way that the former generations didn't, right? So I think that this whole aging process is, I've come to this point now where I understand. I have fought it for sure. I work out, I eat well, and I can see things happening on my body on the outside. And like all women and all people in general, I think women are probably more conscious of that, is I will say, well, I don't really like that, but what am I going to do about it? Yeah. At this stage, I'm more accepting of it because I know that there's nothing I can do about it. I think maybe 10 years ago, I would have fought it differently because you don't know what's coming. But now I see what's happening and I say, well, I don't like that, but I'm healthy. And that's what I care about. I really want to be healthy.
I think that's key right there. I think at any age we want to be healthy.
Yes.
But I think we take it for granted when we're younger.
We do.
Then when we hit that middle point,
we
say,
we're still
okay,
rocking and rolling.
Maybe I'll stop drinking, or maybe I'll stop smoking, or there's something in there that makes us kind of pay attention, or maybe we got a lump or a bump somewhere and we start, okay, I'm going to be a little bit more conscious.
Right.
But then you hit a point where you go, the maintenance part gets, at least I think, the maintenance gets to a point where it takes more of your time than the outcome. Yes. There's not the reward is not there for the amount of time spent.
Correct.
Besides the gym and eating right and things like that, the things you have control over, going to the gym.
Those are the things you do control.
Your muscles, your body, your brain.
And even the muscle is hard to keep it plump.
I totally understand. There does come a time where you're like, how many times can I go do the thing? I got the thing
Yeah.
this day, and then the next day I've got the other thing, and then you got the next thing you know, you're in there 10 hours a week maintaining the body
Yes.
that is going to still age.
It's still aging. Somebody said something to me on my page saying, oh no, Hanya, you can age backwards. And I said, no, you can't. Not as far as I know. I know that there's some people who are trying, but by and large, we cannot age backwards. We can just hope and try to be as healthy as we can.
Yes.
As we age.
Yes.
And accept it along. Be happy. I'm happy I'm here. I have had friends who have died of cancer. Cancer seems to be prevalent today in much younger people than my parents' generation. My parents' generation, nobody really had cancer. It was not...
It's an anomaly.
Exactly. And today, think about how much cancer we hear about. This is shocking.
Yeah, it does make you wonder.
It makes you wonder.
So staying healthy, at least you know I'm on the path to... And we have more knowledge, too.
We do.
We have a lot more knowledge on the things we shouldn't do or the things we can do to help us, especially the sedentary lifestyle or what get some sun. You don't have to cut it out completely, but now we're learning a little bit of sun is okay.
Yeah, 10 minutes a day. I go out and take it in. I breathe deep, fill my lungs, ground my feet into the earth. Yeah. These are just simple things in the first 30 minutes you should be doing every day because it detoxifies your body. I didn't know that 10 years ago.
And I think because of the lifestyle that our grandparents or their grandparents lived, that was already part of the day because they were walking to the bus stop.
Yes.
They were walking to work. They were walking to the grocery store.
Or in the garden.
They were in the garden. Their hands and feet were in the garden.
Yes.
They were playing outside with their kids because there was no TV. So they were doing it naturally.
Now we have to make time.
Now with science, we find out, there's a reason. There's a thing. Yes. There's a thing that they did.
I do. Now I have that plan. It's 30 minutes and this is what I do. I'm at the beach doing that.
Yeah.
It's a plan.
Yeah. So I really want to thank you for
you.
sharing all of your life experiences with us.
Thank you for having me.
And the knowledge that you bring and the confidence that you bring.
Thank you.
I really have enjoyed this talk. And I hope all of you have enjoyed today's guest on the Kristen Weardon Show. You can find all about Hanya's information located in the description of wherever you're seeing this, whether it's on a podcast or YouTube. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Kristen Weardon Show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow so we can have more guests like today. Life is a journey filled with challenges, but those challenges don't have to hold you back. They can be stepping stones to something greater, a life of hope, joy, and purpose. Hi, I'm Kristen Weardon, and my passion is helping you unlock your inner potential. No matter what your past may look like, your past does not need to define your future. Whether you're recovering from a difficult relationship or trying to overcome the challenges of your backstory, I'm here to guide you every step of the way. I offer a range of services tailored to fit your unique needs. Everything from one-on-one coaching, group coaching, to foundation building challenges, and even accountability check-ins. Together, we can create a path that leads you to the future you deserve.